Hey, this is Arthur Robinson Jr. I am the creator of PowerfulInterviews.com. I am the creator of Audio Secrets Training Event.com. I want to welcome each and every one of you to this powerful video. In this interview, you're going to experience life-changing information that you will not find anywhere else. I have secured an incredible interview with a great friend of mine, international speaker, best-selling author, the Billionaire, Jeff Hoffman. Jeff Hoffman, he basically builds startups from scratch, and he was the CEO of both public and private companies. That is huge. Jeff Hoffman, he is the best-selling author of his phenomenal book, which is called Scale. So in this interview, you're going to hear exclusively how Jeff Hoffman was the co-founder of his phenomenal company, which is called Priceline.com. And he built that company to a $35 billion market cap. And now that company, Priceline.com, is worth $65 billion. Also in this interview, Mr. Jeff Hoffman, he breaks down layman's terms about entrepreneurs need to follow excellence. And once you focus on excellence, the money will follow. Also in this interview, Mr. Jeff Hoffman, he breaks down layman's terms about every entrepreneur should build a business that they should sell, and you need to sell that business on the EBITDA system. Also in this interview, Mr. Jeff Hoffman, he breaks down layman's terms about when you sell your business, you will have entrepreneurs that will buy your business for your customers list and for your cash flow, and much, much more. So remember, this is not BS information. The right information will change your situation. Wealthy people take advice from other wealthy people, and unfortunately, broke people take advice from broke people. So right about now, go get your pen and your pad, sit back and relax and write down some notes. In this interview that I'm going to reveal to each and every one of you with my great friend, international speaker, best-selling author, the Billionaire, Jeff Hoffman. This interview, it will change your life. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. So, check it out.
Today, I have a wonderful person on the show, and he's a great friend of mine. His name is Jeff Hoffman. And for those that don't know Jeff, let me explain to each and every one of you about this incredible, phenomenal man. Jeff Hoffman is a successful entrepreneur, proven CEO, worldwide, motivational speaker, published author, Hollywood film producer, and a producer of a Grammy-winning jazz album in 2015. In his career, he has been the founder of multiple startups. He has been the CEO of both public and private companies, and he has served as a senior executive in many capacities. Jeff has been part of a number of well-known companies, including Priceline.com, Ubid.com, CTI, Color Jar, and many more powerful companies. Jeff is the best-selling author of his phenomenal book, which is called Scale, and that is an awesome, impressive resume. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome the one, the only, the powerful Jeff Hoffman to the show.
Thank you, Arthur. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Jeff, for taking time out of your busy schedule to educate me and the listeners worldwide about building wealth. I gladly appreciate it.
Sure, yeah. It's been today. I finally have a slow day. I just did mentoring trips. I was in North Africa, then down in South America, then over in Europe, and finally back home.
Oh, wow, that's absolutely amazing. To everyone that's listening on this show, I highly recommend go and get your pen and your pad right now. My great friend Jeff Hoffman is going to break down layman's terms about how to build massive wealth. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, sure. Everybody should be able to, everybody should have a big dream and should build the tool set to go after it.
Now, what I'd like to know, and can you explain to the listeners in layman's terms, who is the phenomenal Jeff Hoffman? How long you been in your powerful industry, and what is your expertise?
So, excuse me, let me say this. I If I had made just my own business card my whole life, it would have said 2 words on it: problem solver. My whole career has been about seeing big problems that affect lots of people and then solving them. And I will say I'm an engineer by trade. That's what I studied, but I did not like working in a big engineering company. I didn't like corporate America. It did not work for me. Not right or wrong, guys. It's just a DNA thing. I couldn't work in that big structure. But as a problem solver, and especially as a way to create value and build wealth, solving problems that lots of people have and problems that somebody would pay you to fix is the key to success. I see so many people that show me their product, and it's a solution looking for a problem. They say, look at this thing I'm going to do, or this thing I built, and it's great that you think it's cool, but no one else in the world was looking for one of those. So I want to start, Arthur, if I may, but I'll tell you guys about my first startup, because that's, I think, really important. When people that want to build wealth and have success, what they need to understand is the opportunity is around them everywhere. What entrepreneurs do that everybody else doesn't, what successful people, is when they see a problem. Most of us, when you're out in your life, every day you encounter some problem. You get home from work, how was your day, dear? And your answer is, it was horrible. Those idiots made me wait in line for 3 hours, right? Stuff like that happens. There's problems in the world everywhere you go, all around you. But most people go home and complain. Like I said, they just complain. I had to wait in line 3 hours because these people are idiots, and they, might tweet it or change their Facebook status to annoyed, but they go home. This is what successful people do that everybody else doesn't. They do 3 things. They stop when they see a problem. They say, wait. Big problem that lots of people have. And if the answer is yes, entrepreneurs do a second thing, successful people, that everyone else doesn't. They say, is there a solution to this problem? And I just don't know it. They do the research. And if the answer is no, then successful people do a third thing that everyone else doesn't. They say, you guys go home without me. I ain't leaving here till this is fixed. So I just want to tell you, for me, my first company, I just want to illustrate this for the listeners, Arthur. I was in at this time I was actually unemployed. I had left my corporate job, right? Can't eat, no money, no benefits, no nothing. Everyone's yelling at me. And I'm in a line. I go to the airport, and I'm out looking for work. I go to the airport, and I'm standing in line. And the line takes an hour. And when you get to the end of the line, after an hour, the woman says, next, and looks at my ID, and then hits one button, print, and prints a boarding pass. And I said, are you kidding me? You made me stand in this line for an hour, and all you did was hit print. And she said, sir, you got to have a boarding pass to get on a plane. And I said, I understand that, but I stood here for an hour, and all you did was hit print. And she said, we need a boarding pass to get through security. And I said, I get it, but it's just a printer. And I said, why don't you just put printer over here and I'll do it? And she said, sir, you can't do that. Only the airline can. So now I did this lesson what I'm sharing with you, what successful people do. When next time you, as a listener, are in a problem and everyone else just complains and goes home, stop and do this. I turned to all the people in line and I said, does this only bother me? Or how many people does this bother you guys, the rest of the people, a lot of people, that it takes an hour in line and all you just to hit print? Everybody complained. Everybody said, no, it's horrible, they got to fix this, it's inefficient, blah, blah, blah. So then I did the second thing that I've learned that successful people do is, and we'll call that value equation. Would somebody pay you money to fix this? That's what you need to know. Because a lot of people create products that no one's willing to pay for. If you ask people, do you want one of these? They say yes. Then when you say, okay, fine, it's $20, no one wants to pay for it. So you have to make sure you have a value equation. So here's what I did. Everybody said, yeah, this is horrible. These lines are ridiculous. So I said, let me ask you guys this. This is just standing in an airport line. I said, would any of you give me $5 if I could give you a boarding pass right now and you could skip this line? Arthur, people in the back of the line were yelling, $15, $20, right? And I said, okay, so now I have a real problem that bothers a lot of people and someone would pay me to fix it. That's the key. So I'll tell you what, then I did the third thing that you will see that successful people did. I said, I'll be back, leaving until this is fixed. So that Friday pretty much is when we started our company. And that company, this was way before Priceline or anything, but I'll tell you what we did. We fixed that problem. We invented those check-in kiosks. We patented them. When you go to the airport now, when you go up to a kiosk and check in, we invented those. And so we started selling these kiosks because everybody recognized it's a real problem. I don't want to stand in line at the airport. And the airlines loved having these things, and everybody was willing to pay for it. So we created a product that solved a problem that people would pay for. And I will tell you, after only 3 years, I think maybe it was 3 years old, but we sold our whole company 3 years later for about $100 million.
Wow.
Because it was a company that solved a real problem that lots of people have that people would pay you to do. So sorry for the long story, but I want your listeners to understand that next time you see a problem, everyone else is going to go home and complain. You want to be the person that says, guys, go home without me. I'm going to figure this thing out. And if a lot of people have that problem, and if people would pay you to fix it, that's your key to success and building wealth, is to stop and say, I'm fixing this.
Wow. Now, can you explain to the listeners, Jeff, what is the best advice that you have ever received?
Well, that is a wonderful question. And you're going to find this a little bit funny, because the best advice I ever received was the first person that told me to stop listening to the advice of people that were close to me but not relevant. So let me explain that. We get, and I'm going to summarize this, for your listeners, which I learned this many years later. We get our advice from proximity, not from relevance. And what that means is, you have a good idea, and you're excited about it. Who do you tell? Well, your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your friends. You tell the people you see every day. Those people have proximity to you. They're close, but they're not relevant, because those people might tell you your dreams are stupid, your ideas are never going to work, and none of those people are qualified to judge that. Yet you're getting discouraged because your spouse thinks your idea is stupid, or your friends do. And so I will tell you mine. One day when my mother was telling me why something wasn't going to work, I remember thinking to myself, wait a minute, my mom has built a total of 0 internet companies, right? She never built one of these. What does she know? She's my mom, and I respect her. So I learned to just nod my head and say, that's nice, Mom, that's nice, Mom. I stopped listening. The people around you tell you if your idea is good or bad, and they might not be qualified at all. So somebody once told me, stop getting your advice from people close to you, get it from people relevant to you. So I started thinking, if my goal in life is to build, let's say, a consumer internet company, and none of my friends have built one, then I don't really care what they think anymore. They might think it's a great idea, and it might not be. But they might think it's a horrible idea, and it might not be. So the advice I got was to go out in the world and look for somebody. And you can do this online or in your community. Find somebody who you want your life to be like theirs, right? Like I said, I love my mom, but I'm not trying to be her. If you look and say, I really want that person, the path that person created and the life they created, I want mine to be like theirs. So their advice is going to be relevant. That's a person that built an internet company or produced an album, whatever the heck it is you're trying to do. Find somebody who has relevant knowledge and experience, not your friends and your family. And if what they tell you, that's what you should listen to. That's probably one of the most valuable pieces of advice anybody ever gave me.
You are experiencing a life-changing, powerful interview, and you are hearing it first from Arthur Robinson Jr.'s PowerfulInterviews.com.
Now, Jeff, I've seen a powerful video that you were in, and you were speaking to the audience, and you basically are the co-founder of Priceline.com, and you was explaining to the audience about Priceline.com accumulated a $35 billion market cap. Can you explain to the listeners exactly what is a $35 billion market cap?
Yeah, it's actually now about $65 billion that the company is worth. So let me explain how that works. That is really a measure. It's a combination of two things. A market cap is what they call that. It's the value of the company. But it's a combination of what people think the company's worth and the company's performance. So let me explain that. That number, they just multiply the number of shares of stock your company has times the price of the stock. So the higher your stock goes, obviously, the more your company's worth. And what drives the price higher is the company's performance. So early on, people said that internet companies couldn't make a profit, right? Because all these internet companies were giving everything away free. Some of you might remember there was this company years ago called Webvan. Their business was, you tell us what you want from the grocery store and we'll go pick up your groceries and bring it to your house. So in order to get people to use it, they made it free. But after a while, the investors in the company said, guys, we can't keep doing free. We need to make some money here. Charge people. So then they started charging people $26 per person to go pick up your groceries, and no one would pay it. So they went bankrupt overnight. So all these internet companies that were giving everything away free, well, none of them were making money. So that's when the internet bubble kind of crashed, and people said internet companies are bad. But Priceline had a business model that made money every day, because what Priceline would do was find empty hotel rooms, right, and auction them off. So the hotel would say, look, the room's empty, so we'll take what we can get. And the customer, you guys, would say, look, I can't afford $200 a night, but I can pay whatever, $60 for that hotel room. So you're getting a $200 hotel room for $60. And then, and so Priceline is getting paid to do all that. The hotel's happy because you put someone in an empty room that was getting zero, and you're happy because you paid way less. So the business got paid every day by every transaction, and it made money. So each quarter, public companies, when you take them public on the stock market, those companies every quarter have to report their financials. How did you do this quarter? 4 times a year they have to say how they're doing financially, how much money they're making. And every time, Priceline would do well. Every time people would say, boy, I don't know if these internet companies will ever make money, and every quarter Priceline would make money. So Priceline's stock, the price of the stock went $100, $200, $300, and over the last 4 or 5 years, it kept on growing, and it grew. Priceline was the first stock ever to hit $1,000 a share, faster than Apple or Google even. So it's kind of the quiet surprise. But when the stock became worth, because people kept raising the stock price because the company kept making more money. The company does billions, maybe $10 billion a year in sales, and makes $2 or $3 billion in net profits. So because of that, people kept saying, wow, it's a great company, I want to buy some stock, which makes the stock go up. When the stock got over $1,000 a share, that made the company worth $60 billion. So it's a combination of how profitable your company is, but it's also a combination of how excited people are about your company's future.
Wow. This is an incredible interview, and I appreciate you coming on my show today. Jeff, I know for entrepreneurs and business owners, some entrepreneurs, their main goal is to build a phenomenal business that they can sell. When you are in the process of building a business that you want to sell, do you look for, I'm going to sell this company on the EBITDA system, where you're going to basically experience a lot of profit margin?
Well, so I'll tell you what, people buy companies for multiple reasons. The answer to your question is yes, that is one of the ways, but it depends on, you have to be really thoughtful of who you're going to sell it to and what they want. There are some companies that don't care as much about the profits, and what they care about is your customer list. They want to buy all your accounts. So if you have consumers, let's say you had 5 million consumers or something, or if you're business to business, even if you, let's say that you provide janitorial services to corporations, but you have contracts with 300 companies, they want to buy your contracts with these companies because they want the relationship with the company, maybe because they're going to sell them something more than just janitorial services. I'm using that as an example. So in that case, they're buying what they call your book of business. They're buying your relationships and your contracts, and they're not as concerned with your profits. Other companies, to your point, Arthur, are entirely trying to buy your cash flow. So your EBITDA and your margins and your profits are all they care about. They want your cash. So different people that buy companies buy them for different reasons, and you have to do two things. You have to decide under which basis do you want to sell yours. Are you trying to convince people to buy your company because it makes money, or buy your company because you have great contracts, or buy your company because you're in a growth industry? Think about why people would buy your company, and then go to those companies specifically and present that thing. So there are different reasons, and you got to be prepared for them.
You are experiencing a life-changing, powerful interview, and you are hearing it first from Arthur Robinson Jr.'s PowerfulInterviews.com.
So private equity companies, basically, they buy and invest in other profitable companies for scalability and high growth mode?
Yes. Are typically looking for that scalability, right? They want to, they're looking for companies that they believe can continue to grow. So if you want them to buy your company, you have to prepare that argument. You have to think about, don't make them try to guess at it. You have to think about you have to create the argument to convince somebody your company can grow. Why should somebody believe you that you're going to grow? And how are you going to grow, and how are you going to get to new markets, new customers, open up new cities for your business? Present your growth argument, because that's what they want to see. Can we scale this thing?
Jeff, let's talk about delegation. Now, I know the minimum wage of a millionaire is around $524 an hour. So I always tell my listeners, what can you delegate for $524 an hour, or what can you delegate that's within your current budget? How important it is for entrepreneurs and business owners to delegate tasks out that they're not currently good at, so they could just really focus on increasing their revenues?
Okay, really, really good, really, really important. Sometimes people say to me, I say, why don't you hire an assistant? And they say, I can't afford an assistant. And the silliness of that is that you can't afford not to. So let's say it's an assistant. I'm going to make up a number. Let's say an assistant that would have charged, would have been $9 an hour. But you just said that your time has a value of $500 an hour. So you're doing all this administrative work because you don't have the cash to pay an assistant. But the reason you don't have the cash to pay an assistant is because you're not closing these big deals because you're too busy doing all the assistant work. So the point is, if you had an assistant that could take all the smaller and administrative work off of your hands so you could spend all your time closing deals, you would have closed 5 huge deals right by now, and you've been able to afford 5 assistants. That makes sense, Arthur?
That makes a lot of sense.
People say, I can't afford to do this, so they spend their valuable time doing those things, and that time could, but I'm going to give you a really easy to understand example, even though it's not really business. I was doing a little mentoring, and I was visiting a guy that's a surgeon, right? So that's as pretty high up there as it gets. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm working on our calendar and doing scheduling. I said, wait, you're sitting on the computer for 2 hours doing scheduling and appointments? He said, yeah. And I said to him, why don't you just get a scheduler to do that? And he said, well, that costs money. And I said, wait, when do you make the most money here? He said, we make a lot of money when I do a surgery. And I said, so the 2 hours you spent working on the calendar, you can't do a surgery because you're working on the calendar, you're not available. He said, right. And I said, so how much do you get paid for a surgery? And he told me. And I said, how much would a scheduler cost? And I said, so the time she would spend scheduling is time you could be doing surgeries where you get paid 10 times more than this. It makes no sense. So you are exactly right. People need to think about the value of their time and where to spend it best. That guy needs to be doing surgeries. If you're a salesperson and that's your strength, you should never be in the office. You should be out with customers all the time selling. Do the thing that makes you the most money and get other people to do everything else.
So sales is the avenue to more revenue?
Absolutely. You can't. Here's the thing. I'm glad you worded it that way, Arthur, because you can't save your way to wealth. You can't keep saving $1 here and saving. I mean, in your company, you can't cut costs is what I meant by that.
That's true.
You don't get rich by saying, you know what, let's not hire an assistant. You know what, let's not pay for janitorial services. Every $1 you cut off the bottom line, you don't get rich that way. you get rich when the top line grows 10 times over. So revenue generation, growing the top line is how you get wealthy. Of course, the bottom line matters, but the bottom line is $1 here and $1 there. And the top line is you release some new product that you sell, millions of dollars on. You got to focus on top line revenue more than bottom line. And that's why people say that famous phrase when people say it takes money to make money. That's exactly why they say that. If you won't spend any money on advertising or you won't spend any money on an assistant, then you're never going to make money because you're going to be in your office doing scheduling and not doing surgery.
Jeff, can you explain to the listeners what is the difference between rich versus wealthy?
I think that's great as well because I think that rich, you can pick either one, but I think that rich is just money and wealthy is the total package of your life, right? I don't know. You could reverse those two words, but I'm just separating whichever way you want to separate them, because the quality of your life is defined by a bunch of things. So. My best friend in the entire world drowned in kind of a freak accident in the North Sea in Ireland. And I went back to my office, and guess what? Money was still coming in, right? Our business was still going great, but I just stood there, and I didn't care anymore. And I was like, why is my business still running great? Everything's perfect. We're making all this money, and I still don't care anymore. You know why? Because the whole fun of it was having him to share it with. Having a really great moment is not a lot of fun when you come home to an empty house and there's no one to share it with. What's fun is everybody's hugging and high-fiving and celebrating and you're throwing a party. It turns out that the quality of your life has everything to do with the quality of the people in it. So money alone does not make you wealthy. It makes you rich. Wealth is when you have a well-rounded life where you have people to share things with, people that care about you. If you're religious, your faith and God in your life, whatever it is having more dimensions to your life so that the money doesn't own you. I know people that the money owns them and it drives everything in their life and they're miserable. And I know other people, by the way, I never really cared about money, and maybe that's part of the reason why I made it, because I never let it get the best of me. I focused on things that were important to me and wound up getting paid anyway.
You mentioned that powerful word, money. Now, I know money is not value. Money is just a facilitator to do transactions. How would you define money?
I think that you have it right. It is a facilitator, but here's the other thing. There's no, the first time I made money, I told you about, we sold that first company when I was in my 20s, the company that we sold for $100 million. I actually felt guilty because I suddenly made money and none of my friends did. Until I realized that there are a lot of problems in life you can solve. Some of them take money. The first thing that I ever got a chance to do was I saw a story on the news about a home for abused women. It was a battered women's shelter, and they were kicking all the women out into the streets, or God forbid, back to the men who abused them, because they ran out of money and they couldn't pay their mortgage. And I realized one day, even though I was feeling a little bad about making money, that I now had money in the bank and I could pay their mortgage. So when I went and did that, I'm going to tell you what changed for me was I went and I realized that there's no shame in life in making money. The shame in life is in not using it to help others. And once I found out that if I work really hard and make more money, I can go help more women or more people. As soon as I came home from paying the mortgage on that battered women's shelter, I thought, man, I need to go back to work, make more money, and help somebody else. So money is an important element as long as you don't let it own you.
So basically, money is a byproduct of the value that you uncover?
You got it exactly right. It is just the byproduct. When you create value in the world, money just happens to be the scorecard of business.